This is a great honor, and I'm thrilled to be talking to this group. What I've noticed, here's what I've noticed. With Draper Associates, we do almost all technology venture investing. That technology has taken us in a couple of different directions. And as this virus hit and people were locked in place, interesting things happened to those companies. About 2/3 of them have weirdly thrived in this environment. Anybody who we have investment in Ledger and Coinbase and Tezos, and people are flocking to that. Being locked in place, you say, oh, well, what is this cryptocurrency? How would I use it? Why don't I try sending some Bitcoin or accepting Bitcoin? And maybe it's a better place to put my money now that the stock market's crazy high and people are printing dollars willy-nilly, and there's a lot of uncertainty around real estate. They're starting to say, well, gee, let's go into this crypto world because it seems much more stable now. The other thing that's happening is people are experimenting with VR. They are using remote healthcare. They're using remote education. We have a company that allows people to transcribe these Zoom calls called Otter. There are a bunch of companies that seem to be doing incredibly well during this time. And then there are some that are in very difficult situation. And those are the ones that are tied to, we backed a bunch of companies that are tied to transportation, new forms of transportation, new ways to get around a city, new ways to get from place to place, personal vehicles that take off and land. Those companies are having more difficulty raising money because of the uncertainty. Now people are getting a little bit more into them, but I know that the idea that anybody would travel was heresy for a while there. So we had sort of a bifurcation. What's interesting about this time is that when there's it's a little bit of a restart, and that restart creates amazing opportunities for entrepreneurs. Here are a couple of things. One is 31 million Americans are unemployed that weren't unemployed 4 or 5 months ago. And around the world, it's about 10 times that. All those unemployed are now looking for interesting new things to do. Well, if you're an entrepreneur today, there are some really interesting people that you can get. You can get machine learning people from the travel industry, or AI people from restaurants, or whatever. The other thing that's happening is that there are some amazing new opportunities for leadership. And what I've noticed is that the entrepreneurs that come to me now are the true entrepreneurs. They are driven. They know exactly what they want to do. The money doesn't matter to them. It's really about the mission and the vision and where they want to take the world. And so that actually is a great filtration system for me. I have deal flow from all over the world. 20,000 companies come to me each year. I have the ability to choose the top 20. Well, now those 20,000 are serious entrepreneurs. They're not the ones that are saying, I wanted to do this because I wanted to start a company, or I wanted to do this because Joe over here did it and he was successful. They're doing it because they say things like, because my boss got it all wrong and he did this thing wrong and I got to do this and I got to show the world there's a better way and this is what I'm going to do. That's the view and the vision that we're looking for. And that's what we're getting. So that's a very exciting thing. And there's also something really interesting happening in the world today, and that's the fork in the road. There's a dystopian road, and then there's a utopian road, and we don't know which way that's going to go. Of course, the dystopian road is government control, everybody's in place, trapped, wear a mask, do all these things. And the utopian world is, hey, we're free, we educate you, we tell you about what's going wrong and what's going on, but you make your own decisions. It's that kind of a world. And we know look, if you were in Eastern Europe and you watched as Western Europe thrived during a time where Eastern Europe sort of stayed a little flat, that was really because Western Europe was much freer than Eastern Europe. There was a lot of government control in Eastern Europe. There were super regulations. With regulations come corruption, and with corruption comes a loss and a lack of motivation for inspired and inspiring people. Now, what's beautiful about Eastern Europe is that it's starting to happen. And you're starting to see the West start to lock down and over-regulate and whatever. And now you got this really interesting opportunity in Eastern Europe. It's like a pendulum is swinging back, where people are starting to feel freer and they can try new things, and you don't have to have all those Western regulations. You got your own systems. So we have an opportunity right now to lead toward that free and open society, and it's going to be led by entrepreneurs. And so the entrepreneurs that you fund have the opportunity to lead us to the world we want to have. One of the criteria I'm always looking for when I interview entrepreneurs is what if it works? In fact, that's the biggest thing for me, other than like, how dedicated is this person? What if it works? What does the world look like in this person's imagination? What does the world look like if this person becomes incredibly successful and it transforms this industry into this new thing? What if it works? If it works and we are a more free and open society and more global and less tribal, less tied to geographic borders, then I'm all for it. If it works and we're a lockdown society and people are afraid of their bureaucrats and they operate with not knowing what the rules are because there's so many of them, that's something I don't want to back. And I encourage you to do the same thing. This is one of those times where the things you do now are going to lead us to the world we're going to get in the future. And look, we had this open world and open trade, and the world thrived through that open trade. And now with the lockdowns and the trade wars and all that, we're hurting ourselves. We need to open the borders. We need to open trade. Trade's got to be open throughout the world, and everybody's better off. If Natalia here had a house and I had a farm and we didn't trade, she'd die of starvation and I'd die of exposure. But if we trade, we're both better off. So you multiply that by the 8 billion people around the world and all the trade that can happen. If we open up free trade around the world, we are so much better off. And each of us is better off. And we're going to live better lives, and we're going to be healthier and happier and wealthier, and everything is better when you have a free and open society. And so I think we as investors can fund those entrepreneurs that are going to create that. You need to reach me if you are an investor and you want to invest with us. If you are if you know of an entrepreneur that we should be talking to, then you can reach me, tim@draper.vc. And I give that out to people, so to everybody, So be very gentle with me. Don't send me an email if you just sort of think you want to talk. I want to see business plans, or I want to meet investors. That's it. So with that, I can leave it open for questions. I can go through, I'll tell you what, since I'm not seeing any activity, I'll go through a few of the industries that I think are going to go through major transformations right now. I think healthcare is going to go through major transformation because you're going to be able to use data. And we're seeing it with COVID, where data is being used for therapeutics. You have a disease up here, and you run it on computational biochemistry, and you run it, and then you run a bunch of drugs against that disease, and you go, oh, there's one. And it turns out our company Verge Genomics figured out a drug that is 25 times more effective against COVID than remdesivir, weird name. And it's going to happen through data. It's going to happen in the dry lab. And so data is going to drive healthcare in the future. It's also going to drive healthcare in the diagnostics, because already people can get a better diagnosis from artificial intelligence than they can from the average doctor. And that's been proven by a test. But over time, that's going to be even a broader difference. Like the artificial intelligence is going to be way better at than the doctor at choosing what disease you've got or whatever, because they're going to have all sorts of data, everything from your Fitbit results to your genetic history to what you had for breakfast, airplane seat you sat in, all that. But when combined with a doctor, it's going to be even better. So you'll have much better healthcare because of data. Finance, of course, is going to be completely transformed by Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I think if you're a banker and you're resisting this change, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're going down. If you are a banker and you're saying, hey, this is the new way, let's see if we can transform our clients to Bitcoin and crypto clients, then you're going to win. And I think that's one of those things. It's just happening. You know, technology wins all the wars, and it's going to win this one. And technology always has a way of rising. It can be beaten down by politicians. It can be beaten down by lobbyists or whatever. But look, you've got a better currency out there. Bitcoin is just a better currency than certainly better than the Nigerian naira, certainly better than the Argentinian peso, better than the Venezuelan bolivar. But now we just saw $9 trillion get printed. That means the dollars you had before are worth 20%, 30% less than they were before all that money was printed. Bitcoin, there are only 21 million Bitcoin. You are not going to be subject to all that crazy inflation tied to some political whims. It's going to change things, and you got to get on board. And then insurance is going to change. I see we got a question. How do you want to engage with the CEE region? What are the concrete opportunities for you? Can you elaborate on your partnership with OTB from Poland? Did the current situation impact your investment strategy and how? Yeah, these are good questions, a lot of them. The region is very exciting. In fact, all of Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, is showing real spark for the first time in a long time. In Western Europe, they kind of ruled the world, and then they had the wine and cheese generation. And now they've got this group that says, wait, we don't rule the world anymore. Let's rule the world again. And those are some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. And I'm seeing them happen all over Western Europe. In Eastern Europe, I'm seeing the rules start to change. People say, whoa, free markets seem to work. All of a sudden, people are inspired. They're working harder. They're getting more done. We're getting better food. We're getting better shelter. We're getting better clothing. But we're communicating better. All sorts of things are happening because we've got this free market. I guess Marx was wrong. Lenin was wrong. These other people were right, and free markets work. And people are inspired and they're working harder, and I'm seeing it all over Eastern Europe. What's great about Eastern Europe is they're inspired. They all have smartphones, so they all have access to the same information that we get in the Silicon Valley. So you as in somebody from Eastern Europe can look and say, oh, wow, well, that's the way everybody's thinking. Well, I can think in this slightly different way, and I can grab consumers in this new way. I have a new technology that I can apply to this marketplace and go. And that is fabulous. And there are venture capitalists around the world that are looking for you. There are not as many like me who are actually traveling and going and visiting you and working with you. But there are plenty of venture capitalists that if you show that you've got a technology that can be applied to a market, you can get funding. And that funding can drive you to profitability. You can grow organically, or you can grow through venture funding. This is an amazing time. The disadvantage you have in the CEE is that your grandfather and his father and father in front of him all felt that business was illegal and they couldn't do it. And so business schools are lacking in your region. And so the concept of doing something, making money, spreading a product, growing that product, moving it around the world, advertising that product is somewhat foreign to you. But if you don't have that in your own DNA, combine with somebody from the West who does, or just learn it. It's not that hard. So as an entrepreneur, that's the way I would think. We've got a great relationship with OTB. They're covering a lot of Eastern Europe. They're based in Poland. It's an amazing team. If you are an entrepreneur, make sure you go to OTB for funding. You'll end up getting good advice. You'll end up potentially getting some funding, and they can connect you with us and other larger sources of money around the Draper Venture Network. And that's a great thing. OTB is a part of the Draper Venture Network. We work as a loose association, but a tight group of people who get to know each other very well, come together a couple of times a year. We bring our entrepreneurs together to meet the presidents and VPs of business development of the Fortune 500. We have an amazing network, and OTB is a part of that. And we can connect you with customers in different parts of the world, all of that. Current situation, how's that impacted my investment strategy? I actually thought it was going to be harder, because the last time this happened, I had to really scramble to make sure my companies all had plenty of cash in them. This time, where the stock market's flying so high, I just told all my entrepreneurs, go out, raise as much money as you can, and don't spend it. And I've been telling them that for about a year and a half. So when COVID hit, they were most of them were generally well financed. So that part was not a difficult scenario. Now I can be, I'm one of the very few venture capitalists who's looking forward. And I'm saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Come to me. I've got funds. I'm putting money to work. I'm thinking this is one of those, maybe one of the greatest times in the world to start a business, because you've got some of the best technologies that are going to transform the biggest industries in the world. You've got Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts, artificial intelligence, deep learning, surveillance. You've got some really interesting technologies that are going to transform the biggest industries in the world: insurance, and what is government, but a lot of insurance. So government's going to get transformed. Banking's going to get transformed. It's going to be an amazing time, and And so, and it's the true entrepreneurs that are stepping up now. They're the ones who have a vision for the future, a place where we want to end up. Whether they're going to figure out how to cure the virus, or they're going to figure out a way to open the world, or they're going to figure out a way to feed the hungry, or house us all, or whatever they're going to do in some new way. That it's coming, and those are the entrepreneurs that we're going to back.